In my previous life, after father passed the imperial examination as the top scholar, he caught the eye of the reigning princess. The Empress Dowager wanted to make my mother a co-wife, but mother refused. But who would have thought that mother and I would be attacked by mountain bandits? I died a tragic death, and afterwards, mother disfigured her own face and lived under a false name for over 10 years to avenge me. In this life, it is once again the day the Empress Dowager brings up the co-wife matter. Mother's expression was calm. No need. This commoner woman requests to step down from the marriage. Madam Yan, what did you just say? The music abruptly stopped, and the entire hall fell silent. When mother said, requests to step down from the marriage, even the Empress Dowager sitting at the head showed a look of shock. It was the same scene in my previous life. On the 7th day after Father Yan Ruheng passed as the top scholar, a summons came from the palace, saying the Empress Dowager wished to grace us with an audience. Before dawn, mother had me change into new clothes and pulled me along to practice palace etiquette over and over, afraid something might go wrong. At the banquet, there was singing and dancing in celebration. The Empress Dowager sitting in the main seat, the imperial consort beside her, and that Princess Zhaoyang were unusually warm toward mother. Only after a dance ended did the Empress Dowager suddenly speak. A few days ago, the princess fell into the water in the palace, and it was father who jumped in to save her regardless of his own safety. That is how this fate came about. Only then did mother suddenly realize, so this banquet's true intention was never about the wine. Mother immediately declined gently with soft words. Then father also stood up and said, I share deep love and devotion with my wedded wife. I dare not wrong the princess. The Empress Dowager just smiled at the time. Not even a month after the banquet ended, mother was publicly caught in adultery, and father divorced her with tears in his eyes. Mother couldn't defend herself no matter what, and in the end had no choice but to take me and leave the capital, preparing to return to our hometown. Before we even reached our hometown, we encountered mountain bandits raiding on the road. I was shot through the heart by an arrow and died on the spot, but my soul didn't disperse. I watched mother, who survived through countless hardships, wash her face with tears day and night, and finally disfigured herself, hiding her identity to seek revenge. I also saw that half a year later, father grandly married Princess Zhaoyang, and grandmother also laughed heartily after the princess gave birth to a grandson. Now, the same scene. Noble ladies and officials' wives from all directions, sitting in high positions, were all staring here. Mother knelt on the ground, bowing deeply. My husband Yan Ruheng is exceptionally talented, and Princess Zhaoyang is of noble birth. They are truly a match made in heaven. This humble wife voluntarily requests to step aside, to fulfill this beautiful union. Father abruptly stood up. The shock in his eyes didn't seem fake. Ning Niang, Princess Zhaoyang, seated below the Empress Dowager, slightly furrowed her brows. Though I admire Lord Yan, I never thought of stealing someone else's beloved. The Empress Dowager's intention was originally for U.S. sisters to live in harmony and share one husband. How could I let sister suffer such grievance? In my previous life, I heard people say she took a fancy to father, half because of his outstanding talent and looks. The other half was actually because she found it rare that he had never taken a concubine, thinking such a devoted man would surely hold her in the palm of his hand. If sister is unwilling, I'll have Mother Empress withdraw the decree right away. Only please don't speak of divorce out of spite. It would hurt the bond between husband and wife, and also break Lord Yan's heart. After saying this, she rose from her seat and wanted to come over to help mother up. One was an innocent and carefree noble princess dressed in magnificent attire. The other was a gentle and elegant woman with delicate features, the wife of the top scholar, and mother kowtowed to the Empress Dowager again. Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager, this commoner woman has made up her mind. This humble woman is plain as a willow, coarse and unworthy, truly undeserving of the Shuangyuan, and dare not stand equal with a princess. Please grant your gracious approval, your majesty. The Empress Dowager sized mother up, and only after a long while did she slowly speak. Madam Yan, have you thought this through? There will be no room for turning back. This commoner woman has thought it through clearly. In an instant, this graceful Empress Dowager suddenly let out a soft laugh. She has got backbone. Proclaim my decree, Yan Ruheng and Dai Ning are hereby permitted to divorce. From now on, whether one marries or the other weds, they shall have nothing to do with each other. Thank you for your grace, your majesty the Empress Dowager. From beginning to end, father stood frozen in place. He probably never expected that mother would let go so readily. Wronger, starting today, mother and your father are divorced. Would you be willing to come with me? In the carriage heading back to the residence, mother could no longer maintain the forced calm from before. Her back hunched slightly, as if all her strength had been drained away in an instant. She held me tightly with all her might, as if terrified I would leave her again. I nodded immediately, my little hands gently patting her shoulder. This was the mother who cherished me as her own life. How could I not want to follow her? In my memory, I had been weak and sickly since birth, spending much of my time lying in bed. It was mother who stayed by my side through sleepless nights. She patiently taught me bit by bit to roll over and walk, holding my little hand as she taught me to trace characters and learn to read. Now, I was already 4 years old, yet still couldn't speak a single complete sentence. She never cared about the whispers and pointing from others behind our backs. Instead, each time she would gently stroke the top of my head, her eyes curved with a tender smile as she coaxed me. Noble ones speak late. Our wrong has a steady temperament and a meticulous mind. She'll surely be a blessed noble one in the future. What is more, how could I forget? In my past life, I died miserably under those sinister schemes and plots. It was mother who spent decades just to seek justice for me. News of father and mother's divorce reached the manor far faster than we did. When we returned to the manor, the servants who used to be respectful now looked at mother with somewhat strange expressions. Mother had me sit on the soft couch while she packed things together with the maid, Auntie Shuend. It was at this moment that Father Yan Ruheng hurried back. He blocked mother's path as soon as he entered, his tone anxious. Ning Niang, why must it come to this between us husband and wife? Mother raised her eyes to look at him, her gaze cold as frost. Yan Ruheng, if the Empress Dowager truly grants you a marriage, what would you do? Father's gaze flickered. That is the royal family. How could I dare refuse? No need to say more. Mother interrupted him. Husband, didn't you study hard by the cold window for 10 years precisely for today's glory and wealth? Now that the princess favors you, a meteoric rise is within reach. Why ruin your future for me, a humble wife who shared your hardships? Mother no longer looked at him. She turned and called over my elder brother Yan Mingru, who had rushed over upon hearing the news, pulled both him and me to her side, and asked, "Now that your father and I have divorced, are you willing to leave with me?" As soon as her words fell, grandmother's shrill voice came from outside the courtyard. Right after, she appeared, leaning on her cane, supported by a maid. Grandmother pointed at mother's nose and scolded. "Dai Ning, how dare you? What do you think you are doing? Where do you dare to take my Yan family's grandson? Mingrui is the root of our Yan family, the hope for the future. How could he possibly follow an ungrateful woman like you?" Father chimed in. Mother is right. Mingrui will be going to study at Chongshan Academy soon. If he leaves with you, wandering about everywhere, how could he focus on his studies? What if it ruins his future? I looked at my elder brother beside me. His little face was full of hesitation, but in the end, he didn't dare to utter a single word. My heart turned cold. Just like in my previous life, when father led him into the magnificent princess's manor, and told him he no longer needed to mention our mother from a merchant family. He was silent like this too, tacitly accepting that overwhelming wealth. Father seemed somewhat pleased with himself. He then squatted down. As for Mingrong, father knows you've always been obedient. Think carefully. If you leave with your mother, you'll no longer be a young lady of the Zhuangyuan's manor, and you'll never enjoy such a life of luxury again. I quietly stared at this familiar face before me. Once upon a time, father used to hold me on his knee and teach me to paint plum blossoms hand by hand. He also used to bring me candied fruits when I took my medicine. But in my previous life, when he learned of my tragic death, he was just as silent as this. Even from beginning to end, he never once set foot before my grave. At that moment, I knew that the father who always had a wrong is the most well-behaved. On his lips was truly gone. Without the slightest hesitation, I walked steadily to Mother's side and reached out to hold her hand tightly. Mother looked down at me, and the coldness in her eyes instantly melted into boundless tenderness. She smiled slightly. "Wronger, let's go." Father wasn't a harsh person. After the divorce papers were stamped by the government office, he even gave Mother 200 taels. "Father, Ning, Niang, if you have any difficulties in the future, just come back to the Yan family to find me." That look of his, as if he was already certain that Mother would live miserably after leaving the Yan family. My elder brother, standing nearby, only watched Mother and me in silence from beginning to end. The day before leaving the residence, elder brother came to find me once, trying to persuade me to stay in the Yan family with him. I shook my head and refused. He was somewhat annoyed. "Stay in the Yan family, just stay. Your marriage prospects could secure a good future. If you follow Mother back, you'll only be able to marry a common nobody in the future." I gestured. "But she is still Mother. Elder brother, do you want me to stay with you, so you won't seem so selfish?" In my previous life, when Mother ran around seeking revenge for me and did everything she could to demand justice, he was the same way, scolding Mother with reddened eyes for not seeing the bigger picture, saying she had ruined the promising future he had worked so hard to earn. My elder brother's face instantly turned bright red. He shoved me back hard. "You ungrateful wretch." The two of us parted on bad terms. After leaving the Yan residence, Mother took me to rent a small courtyard in the outskirts of the capital. The rent for the small courtyard wasn't expensive, and it even came with a small patch of open ground. Mother also bought some essential furniture. Aunt Shu came with us, and after tidying things up a bit, we settled in. During this time, news about Mother and Father's divorce was flying all over the capital. This Madame Dai is quite a sensible woman. If it were any ordinary wife who would let go so easily, she actually requested the divorce herself. Isn't that right? I heard that before Zhuang Yuanyan passed the imperial exams, he relied entirely on her managing the household and pawning jewelry to support his studies. Be that as it may, but what status does Princess Zhaoyang hold? The Empress Dowager's darling, the Emperor's sister. Her willingness to lower herself to become an equal wife is already an immense favor. If you ask me, Zhuang Yuan is too heartless. 10 years of marriage, just ending it like that. After the neighbors learned our true identity, there was always something odd in the way they looked at us. At this time, Mother had no time to worry about these rumors. She was busy opening a new wine shop. She said to me, "Don't be afraid, Wronger. Don't listen to what others say. Mother will definitely work hard to earn money and give you a better life." She was true to her word and soon took over a small shop not far from our courtyard, planning to open a wine shop. My maternal grandfather's family used to brew wine in the early years, was somewhat famous in town, and passed the brewing secret recipe down to Mother. Mother used to rely on brewing wine, saving up bits of silver little by little to gather enough for Father's tuition and ink and brush expenses. Unfortunately later, after Mother gave birth to brother and me, her energy was far less than before. On top of that, Father had already become a shukai by then, and had gained some reputation. Grandmother didn't like Mother showing her face in public. Before the wine shop even opened, a series of urgent knocks broke the quiet of the small courtyard. Mother put down the work in her hands to open the door, and standing outside were none other than my travel-worn uncle and Aunt Ningniang. "You girl, how could you not tell your brother about such a big matter? If not for a fellow townsman delivering a message to the capital, I'd still be kept in the dark." Uncle Dai Chen and Aunt Li Yue's faces still looked somewhat weary. Obviously, they had rushed over without stopping after learning the news. Although his tone was full of reproach, anyone could hear the heartache behind it. Aunt grabbed my hand at once, looking me over carefully. "That is right, Ningniang. Look at Mingrong. This girl's little face has thinned a whole circle. She must have suffered quite a lot." Mother looked at her brother and sister, in-law before her voice slightly choked. She turned her face away. I didn't want to make you worry and didn't want to cause you trouble." My nose stung and tears nearly fell. How could I not understand Mother's guilt? She was afraid her situation would implicate Uncle's family. Uncle was once Grandfather's adopted son, an upright and generous man. Back then, after coming of age and marrying, he didn't want to stay long at Grandfather's house under protection, so he offered to leave and venture out on his own with Aunt. In my past life, upon learning of my tragic death, it was Uncle and Aunt who, despite the long journey, rushed to the capital overnight. They waited at the Yan residence gates, running around everywhere to inquire, just wanting to seek justice for Mother and me, and catch the murderer who killed me. But Yan Ruheng had long since climbed to higher branches, with overwhelming power and influence. How could he tolerate Uncle making such a fuss? Within a few days, Uncle was framed with trumped-up charges by his people and thrown into prison. When he came out, one of his legs was already ruined, leaving him crippled. Aunt was also a fierce-tempered woman. In the end, she went straight to beat the grievance drum and rescued Uncle. Even so, in all the years that followed, every Qingming festival or my birthday, Uncle and Aunt never forgot Mother and me, burning some paper offerings for us. Uncle's brows were tightly furrowed. "Nonsense. How is this any trouble? Listen to me. Come back to the hometown with me. Your brother will protect you too, and no one will dare bully you again." Aunt was also nodding repeatedly by the side, holding Mother's hand and softly agreeing. "Yes, Ningniang, go back. Home is always more stable than here. With us around, we definitely won't let you and Ming Rong suffer any grievances." But Mother slowly shook her head. "Elder brother, sister, in-law, thank you for your kind intentions, but I cannot go back. I want to stay in the capital, watching over a wrong, and earn a livelihood with my own skills." In the previous life, after Mother encountered mountain bandits on the road, she disfigured her own face. Only after she narrowly escaped death did she learn that this was the princess and father trying to eliminate her completely. For this reason, she concealed her identity, traveled far and wide, and swore to take revenge. 6 years later, the former Zhuang Yuan's wife became a scarred cook, and with her excellent culinary skills, she snuck into the princess's manor kitchen. At Father Yan Ruheng's birthday banquet, she poisoned the two of them. Yan Ruheng. "Murong Shui, today is the day I, Dai Ning, avenge my daughter." After saying this, Mother looked at the two who had collapsed on the ground from the poison and laughed loudly. Where did this madwoman come from? The Empress Dowager was furious upon learning her beloved daughter had been poisoned, saying she would have Mother sliced by 1,000 cuts, skinned alive and her tendons pulled out. But Mother had already slit her own throat. The Emperor who rushed over looked at the woman in the pool of blood, and in the end only let out a long sigh, ordering people to collect her body in a coffin and send it to a temple for the monks to perform rites for her departed soul. So in this life, Mother doesn't plan to take me away from the capital, but instead stays right here in the capital. She intends to put down roots bit by bit, right under the noses of the Empress Dowager and the princess. Seeing Mother's determined gaze without any sign of yielding, Uncle had no choice but to compromise helplessly. Fine, with your temperament. Once you've set your mind on something, you never look back. Since that is the case, your brother won't push you. But you can't support this wine shop alone. You have to let me help you out. As soon as he finished speaking, Uncle turned to look at Aunt. Aunt immediately understood and promptly took out a thick stack of banknotes from the bag she carried, stuffing them directly into Mother's hands. She laughed heartily. "Ning Nyang, just take it. This is a token of goodwill from your brother and me." Mother looked at the banknotes in her hands, then at the two people with earnest expressions, and didn't refuse again. "Thank you, brother and sister-in-law. I'll keep this kindness in my heart, and I'll definitely pay you back when the time comes." With Uncle and Aunt's support, the preparations for Dai Family Brewery gradually took shape. But on this particular day, an uninvited guest suddenly arrived. Princess Joyoung stood abruptly at the small courtyard gate with a group of attendants. With her jade hairpin and splendid attire, she looked completely out of place in this humble courtyard. At this moment, Mother and I had our sleeves rolled up, washing glutinous rice by the well. She furrowed her brow, looking puzzled. "Madam Dai, what is this? Why are you doing such rough work? Could it be that young Master Yan didn't give you enough silver when you divorced?" When she saw me crouching nearby, her eyes held a hint of pity. "Mingrong is so young, yet you are making her do these things. Isn't that rather improper?" Hearing her words, I couldn't help but secretly roll my eyes. Mother just smiled faintly. "The princess jests. Yan Ruhang and I have already divorced, and from now on we have nothing to do with each other. This Dai family winery has always been my ancestral business. Now picking it up again is merely making a living by my own abilities. A woman in this world should be self-reliant and independent, not dependent on others." She paused, then looked at me, her gaze gentle. "As for Mingrong, although she is young, letting her help out and see the hardships of labor. Understand that earning money isn't easy. Only then will she know to cherish everything she has in the future. This isn't necessarily a bad thing." Princess Joyoung obviously didn't catch the meaning behind those words. "How much can one jar of wine sell for?" "2 taels of silver." Princess Joyoung muttered quietly. "Only 2 taels of silver." In her eyes, this little money probably wasn't even enough to buy a single jade hairpin from her hair. "Never mind, I came today to give you a wedding invitation. Young Master Yan and I are getting married soon." Mother understood. "I'll prepare a modest gift and send it to the princess's residence when the time comes." After the princess left, applause suddenly came from nearby. "Well said. The proprietress certainly has insight." A man in black stood at the entrance of the alley. He stood tall and straight, with a face like fine jade, exuding an invisible air of majesty. Mother looked up for a glance, her hands pausing briefly, but she still smiled and nodded, then turned back to continue bending over to wash the glutinous rice. I muttered to myself, "Isn't that the emperor?" In my previous life, after that emperor learned of what happened to my mother and me, he had monks chant sutras to help our souls pass on, hoping we could rest in peace soon. But for some reason, my soul didn't dissipate. Instead, it lingered in the mortal world. By all rights, the dragon aura that naturally emanates from an emperor, solemn and majestic, should be extremely harmful to a ghost like me. Yet, I could stay by his side without any hindrance, and even freely enter and exit the forbidden areas of the palace. I even discovered a portrait in his study. The woman in the painting had curved brows and smiling eyes, her hair styled in the double-ring buns of an unmarried maiden, wearing a light cyan roof skirt that made her skin look whiter than snow. It was my mother before she got married. Although the edges of the scroll were somewhat worn, it was still carefully preserved, showing that its owner treasured it greatly. As it turned out, many years ago when His Majesty was still a prince, during an incognito visit to observe the lives of common people, he accidentally encountered an assassin's ambush. He happened to meet my mother, and she saved him at that time. Unfortunately, by the time he sent people to inquire about her again, my mother had already married my father and moved away from that place. As for Father Yan Ruheng and Princess Joyang, their days weren't smooth either. The imperial physicians exhausted countless rare medicinal ingredients, barely managing to pull the two of them back from death's door. Unfortunately, there was no way to fully restore them. Father ended up paralyzed in bed for the rest of his life. As for that always arrogant and domineering Princess Joyang, she had originally planned to continue staying in the palace, enjoying her glory. But fate is unpredictable. Some unknown exposed that she wasn't the Empress Dowager's biological daughter at all, and the real Princess Joyang had suffered endless torment in a farmer's household and had long since died in the countryside. The Empress Dowager flew into a rage upon learning the truth, feeling she had been deceived for years, and utterly humiliated, immediately issuing a decree to expel this fake princess from the palace and leave her to fend for herself. As for my elder brother Yan Mingru, his fiancée, upon learning the truth of this matter, despised the Yan family's character and without hesitation proposed to break off the engagement. Overnight, Yan Mingru, this young master from a prestigious family whom everyone envied, saw his reputation plummet. With nowhere else to turn, my elder brother could only leave the capital alone, taking with him Father, who was paralyzed in bed, and the destitute, helpless Princess Joyang. But the days were too hard. After a day of labor, my elder brother personally fed poison to Father and Princess Joyang. Afterward, he changed his name and went to a remote small town, marrying into the family of a local merchant's daughter. Years later, when that merchant's daughter caught him taking a concubine and trying to seize her family's entire fortune, she had someone break both his legs and threw him out of the house. My elder brother eventually became a beggar begging on the streets. Perhaps Mother had long noticed that this person's identity was no ordinary one, yet she showed not the slightest hint of flattery or fear, treating him simply as a common passing guest. In the following days, this emperor unexpectedly happened to pass by the small courtyard several more times. Sometimes he would just stand at the alley entrance, quietly watching Mother busy at work for a while. Sometimes he would exchange a few words with Uncle, who was fixing up the shop front, speaking gently without any airs. On this afternoon, Mother was sitting in the courtyard busy with her work when His Majesty appeared once again. Mother looked up and saw him, set down her work, and said with a smile, "Young Master Zhang, since you are passing by, why not come in and try some freshly brewed rice wine?" A hint of surprise flashed in His Majesty's eyes. Then he replied with a smile, "Then I'll trouble you, Madam Dai." After saying that, he even took out a candied hawthorn stick from his sleeve and handed it to me. I swallowed my saliva, but still waited until Mother agreed before accepting it. Then she turned and went inside, bringing out 2 coarse ceramic bowls and a jar of freshly brewed rice wine, handing one bowl to young Master Zhang. The two sat down at the stone table in the courtyard and began chatting about wine brewing. Finally, getting into the spirit of the conversation, Mother even rolled up her sleeves and lifted the lid of the clay jar, letting him smell that fermentation aroma. I recalled that whenever Mother mentioned these brewing matters before, Father would get impatient, as if hearing something filthy. But now, this man's eyes were full of admiration. With such skills, Miss Dai, why worry about the brewery not thriving? Mother smiled and poured more wine into his bowl. I don't seek prosperity, only stability. Earning a living with my own hands lets me sleep soundly at night. When she looked up, the sunlight happened to fall on her eyelashes, casting a soft halo. "Once the shop opens, if young Master Zhang doesn't mind how humble this place is, do come by often." I saw it with my own eyes, that young Master Zhang stared at Mother for a long, long time. A month later, at Father's wedding to Princess Joyang, Mother never showed up from start to finish. She only followed proper etiquette by having Aunt Shu deliver a modest gift to the princess's residence. They say this wedding was the most extravagant and lavish event in the capital in nearly a decade. Absolutely jaw-dropping. I was curious, so I followed along and watched from upstairs in the distance. I saw Father, Yan Ruheng, wearing a gold-embroidered python robe, riding proudly on a tall horse. Behind him was the princess's imperial carriage. Not only was the carriage body inlaid with gems, but even the curtains were embroidered with gold thread. From afar, commoners were exclaiming in amazement, "Good heavens, how is this a wedding? It is practically immortals getting married. Look at those pearls on the carriage, they're bigger than fists." And to show her favor, the Empress Dowager even bestowed several chests of rare treasures as dowry, including priceless calligraphy, paintings, and jade artifacts. It is said that the value of this dowry alone was enough to match half the shops in the capital. Watching the extremely grand wedding procession, I couldn't help but recall the days when my parents were still harmonious. Back then, Father hadn't yet passed the imperial examination as the top scholar, and our family was ordinary. Yet he once held Mother's hand and solemnly promised, "Dainang, I've wronged you. When I make something of myself in the future, I'll definitely hold the grandest wedding ceremony for you." A few days later, Dai Family Brewery opened for business with much fanfare. It turned out Mother had improved upon the brewing secret recipe left by my maternal grandfather, specially crafting several fine wines exclusively for women. This wine was fragrant and mellow on the palate, with a lingering aftertaste. It lacked the burning throat sensation of strong liquor, yet carried a unique floral and fruity aroma, making it perfect for women to sip. At first, the owner of a nearby restaurant heard about this fine wine and came specifically to taste it. After trying it, he couldn't stop praising it and immediately made an agreement for long-term supply. Over time, the wine's reputation spread among the noble ladies of the capital's high society. Within a few months, the women's exclusive wine from Dai Family Brewery had completely spread throughout the capital. The brewery's business grew increasingly booming, and Mother gradually hired 2 nimble workers to help manage things. That evening, Mother closed up the shop and took me walking toward the small courtyard. Just as we turned into the alley, we spotted a woman curled up in the corner by the wall. The woman was covered in wounds, her clothes tattered beyond recognition, her hair disheveled, yet one could still make out the exquisite beauty between her brows and eyes. Her face was pale as paper, clearly at the end of her rope. Her voice was weak. Save Me Mother didn't hesitate and immediately hurried forward. "Miss, hold on." Mother and I used all our strength to drag her into the small courtyard. Once through the door, Mother turned and instructed, "Arong, quickly go inside and fetch some hot tea. Ashu, go get some clean clothes and medicine for wounds." I didn't dare delay and hurriedly ran inside on my little short legs. I just felt that woman's face looked particularly familiar, but I couldn't recall where from at the moment. Aunt Shu came over carrying the clothes and medicine, and seeing the woman covered in blood, asked cautiously, "Miss, who on earth is this?" Can't blame Aunt Shu for being so nervous. Ever since the wine shop opened and business went smoothly, Uncle and Auntie saw there was no need to help out here anymore, and went back to their hometown at ease. These days, only the 3 of us remained in the small courtyard. Me, Mother, and Aunt Shu. Perhaps the wine shop's business had caught someone's eye. Some days ago, there were always suspicious people snooping around the courtyard in the middle of the night. After that young Master Zhang heard about this, he personally brought over a big, fierce dog the very next day, saying it was for guarding our home. Since then, those hooligans indeed never dared to come again. Mother carefully wiped the woman's wounds, while sighing with a furrowed brow. Looking at these injuries, she is probably a poor soul with a hard life to be hurt this badly. Before she could finish, the woman suddenly trembled all over, 2 streams of tears welling up in her eyes, and cried out, "Mother!" With great difficulty, we finally finished cleaning her wounds and changed her into clean clothes. Bang, 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 but just then, violent knocking suddenly came from outside the courtyard gate. "Listen up, you inside, open the door now. We're catching an assassin. Delay important matters, and it'll be your hides." Mother's expression instantly became tense, As soon as the door bolt was pulled open, a group of guards in fitted attire with long sabers at their waists stood at the doorway. Seeing this, Mother hurriedly stepped sideways to block the doorway. "Sir, it is the dead of night, and you are barging into my courtyard with so many people. What urgent matter could there be?" The guard captain at the front shouted harshly. "We're under orders to catch an assassin. An assassin fled to this area." Mother said cautiously, "Sir, there really isn't any assassin in this courtyard. It is just me and my daughter. We're ordinary folk. How would we dare hide an assassin?" But the guard captain's tone was ice. Cold. "Move aside." Mother helplessly stepped aside. "All right then, if the officers want to search, then search, but please be gentle and don't scare the child." A group of guards immediately scattered, turning the main room, the woodshed, the pile of junk in the corner of the yard, and even the bamboo basket by the well upside down. The head guard captain circled around the small courtyard, but his nose suddenly twitched. He abruptly stopped in his tracks, his gaze instantly turning sharp. "Why is there a smell of blood?" I watched as the guard captain followed the scent, walking step by step toward the woodpile in the corner of the woodshed. My heart tightened, and I spread my arms to block his path. "Get out of my way, you little brat." The guard captain obviously didn't take me. This little pipsqueak, seriously pointing his sword at me. Just then, a deafening roar suddenly came from behind me. It was the big dog that young Master Zhang had sent over. It crouched beside the woodpile, a large piece of raw meat at its feet, now staring at the guard captain with a low warning growl rumbling in its throat. The head guard captain abruptly stopped, looking at the traces of blood around the big dog's mouth. After a moment's thought, he immediately waved his hand. "Wrap it up, withdraw." Only when the footsteps outside the courtyard gate had completely faded did Mother hurry forward to pull me into her arms. Mingrong, my Mingrong. She held me and comforted me for quite a while, seemingly reminded of the scene when I left her in my previous life. Afterward, she walked over to the large vat near the firewood pile and lifted the lid. Mother carefully helped the woman into the house. I was still a bit scared. The fierce, menacing looks of the guards from earlier still lingered in my mind. The big dog that young Master Zhang had sent over slowly walked up to me and nudged my hand with its fluffy big head, as if telling me not to be afraid. Just then, a familiar voice came from outside the courtyard gate. "Lady Dai, open the door. It is me." I hurried to open the door and saw that it was indeed young Master Zhang standing at the entrance. He bent down to look at me. "Mingrong, the guard's search just now must have scared you, huh?" Hearing this, I instantly felt a bit wronged, lowered my head, and said nothing. Seeing this, young Master Zhang picked me up without a word and comforted me. That look of his was just like my father in my memories, who used to dote on me endlessly. After quite a while, I finally caught a glimpse of Mother standing at the firewood shed doorway, quietly watching this scene with a complex, indiscernible look in her eyes. Young Master Zhang also noticed Mother, but didn't put me down right away. Instead, he walked over naturally while holding me. "Lady Dai, this commotion tonight didn't scare you and the child, did it?" Mother stepped forward and gently took me from his arms. I wanted to stay a bit longer, but Aunt Shu quietly came over, took my hand, and led me toward the room. After entering the room, Aunt Shu patted my head. "Wrong, if nothing unexpected happens, you are probably going to have a new daddy." I quietly poked a hole in the window paper to peek, and saw Mother with her head slightly lowered, looking somewhat flustered. And as young Master Zhang kept talking, he actually slowly took a step forward toward Mother. The two figures gradually drew closer. But in the end, Mother still said something with a cold expression. Young Master Zhang seemed somewhat hurt, and quickly left the small courtyard. The woman who was rescued was named Chu Yan. Her injuries were quite severe, so she stayed in the small courtyard to recuperate. Aunt Shu helped take care of her every day, and Mother would also find time to nurse her back to health. It is just that after that night, young Master Zhang never appeared again. And his absence actually made Mother become somewhat absent-minded. She who was always focused when managing the winery and brewing wine on ordinary days, lately kept spacing out. "Miss?" One morning, Aunt Shu walked past carrying a water basin. Mother suddenly snapped back to reality, looked at me blankly, then looked at Aunt Shu and asked in confusion, "What is wrong?" "This glutinous rice. You've already washed it 3 times. Mother lowered her head to look at the glutinous rice in her hands, only then belatedly realizing, and her cheeks unconsciously flushed pink. I sat on a small stool nearby, thinking that Mother must have young Master Zhang in her heart too. But my young Master Zhang is the current emperor. Just thinking about that ruthless old Empress Dowager and Princess Jiaoyang, I couldn't help but feel a bit worried. I fretted and fretted, unknowingly, plucking out quite a lot of the big dog's fur. Just then, a knock suddenly came from outside the courtyard gate. Mother got up almost immediately, walking quickly toward the door. But when she pulled open the latch and saw clearly who was standing outside, the joy on her face instantly froze. Standing at the door were actually Father Yan Ruheng, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, and elder brother Yan Mingru. "What are you here for?" Mother spoke coldly, her body still blocking the doorway, with no intention of letting them in. But Father Yan Ruheng didn't care at all about her coldness. He said gently, "I came to see you and Arong." He looked around the courtyard for a while, then lifted his foot and walked straight in, finding a clean-looking stone step to step on. The attendants behind him also put down the gift boxes in their hands. Soon they filled the small courtyard to the brim. Elder brother Yan Mingru stood behind Father, his expression somewhat uneasy. He caught sight of me squatting to the side, hesitated for a moment, walked over and took out an exquisite food box from the brocade pouch he carried, handing it to me. "Here, Arong. These are osmanthus cakes from Jingxianglu. Only 50 boxes are sold each day. I specially brought them for you." His tone carried a hint of smugness. I stared at the food box, feeling no ripples in my heart, but still reached out and took it, opened it, and tasted a piece. The fragrance of osmanthus spread across my tongue. The texture was indeed delicate, but I only took 1 bite before I pouted. This taste was exactly the same as the osmanthus cake that young Master Zhang had specially sent over after learning I liked them. "You are not eating anymore?" Elder brother raised an eyebrow and asked when he saw me put down the food box. I shook my head and gestured. "I am sick of eating these." But elder brother obviously thought I was joking and let out a scoff. On the other side of the courtyard, Father said, "Daining, I know it is not easy raising a child alone. Take these things, close this winery, and come back with me along with Arong. I'll smooth things over with the princess for you." Mother's voice rose. "Yan Ruheng, how do you have the nerve to say such things?" "I am doing this for your own good," Father furrowed his brow, his tone impatient. "A woman showing her face in public running a winery. What kind of behavior is that? If word gets out, it is the Yan family's reputation that'll be ruined." Mother was furious. "What does the Yan family's reputation have to do with me? Besides, I built this winery with my own abilities. There is no way I am closing it." As it turned out, Father Yan Ruheng had now secured an important position at court, riding high on success with a promising future ahead. But he happened to hear that Dai Ning, his ex-wife whom he had divorced, had actually opened a winery in the outskirts of the capital. At first, he just assumed it was a small workshop barely scraping by, and didn't pay it any mind. But who would have thought that the business of Dai's winery would grow more and more prosperous by the day? More and more people came to know of his past relationship with Dai Ning, and the rumors gradually drifted toward the princess's residence. That is why he hurried over, trying to force Mother to shut down the winery. Seeing Mother's resolute attitude, Father suppressed the anger in his heart. "Ning, Niang, be obedient. This matter concerns not only the face of our Yan family, but also Princess Zhaoyang. As you know, she has been pregnant recently and is particularly temperamental. If she hears these rumors and it affects her pregnancy, no one can bear the consequences. Can't bear the consequences? The one who can't bear the consequences the most is you. Mother suddenly stepped forward, her eyes burning with rage. Come on, Yan Ruheng. I'd like to see what you can do to me. I, Dai Ning, walk upright and sit straight, earning my living with my own hands. I am not the least bit afraid of you. Yan Mingrui, standing behind Yan Ruheng, unconsciously stepped forward as he saw the argument between the two escalate. He opened his mouth. Mother, father is also doing this for your own good. Look at those gossips from the neighbors. They're spreading really nasty things. Gossip. Mother turned to look at him, her eyes full of disappointment. Mingrui, even you think that mother making a living by brewing wine with her own skills is something shameful? Yan Mingrui's cheeks flushed bright red, stammering and unable to form complete sentences. I didn't mean it that way. It is just that over at the princess's residence, there are always people talking behind. Say what? Are you saying that I, your mother born of merchant stock, am too vulgar and lowly to match a young master who is about to become imperial kin? Do you think my wine shop has tarnished the Yan family's reputation? She took a deep breath, trying to calm her surging emotions. Mingrui, mother doesn't blame you for being so young and already blinded by wealth, forgetting your roots. But if you truly think mother running a wine shop is a stain on you, a disgrace to you, then speak your mind clearly today. From now on, I'll just pretend I never gave birth to a son like you. You are absolutely unreasonable. Hearing this, father's face turned ashen as he pointed at mother, his chest heaving violently. In the end, he gritted his teeth and threw out one line, "Suit yourself." Then he flung his sleeves, turned around, and stormed off with his entourage. The courtyard gate was still wide open, with those exquisite gift boxes scattered all over the ground. Mother stood frozen in place, yet her eyes quietly reddened. Clearly, this father and son had broken her heart completely. I hurried over on my little short legs and hugged her waist tightly from behind, pressing my small face against the hem of her clothes. For the first time, I hated that I couldn't speak. Mother's body stiffened for a moment. After a long while, she finally let out a long breath. A wrong. Mother is fine. A somewhat stiff voice came from the doorway. So that was Princess Zhaoyang's prince consort, Yan Ruheng. We turned to look, and saw that Qiu Yan had somehow already been standing at the firewood shed entrance, her expression stiff. Mother nodded. Yes, it is him. Miss Qiu. What is wrong? Qiu Yan gave a bitter smile. Madam Dai, forgive me, but I cannot stay here any longer. If I stay, sooner or later, I'll bring catastrophe upon you and a wrong. Why do you say such things, miss? The people who were hunting me down all this time were sent by Princess Zhaoyang. It is already a miracle that I managed to escape here. What is going on? Mother was shocked. You have no grudge with Princess Zhaoyang. Why would she treat you like this? Actually, I am the real Princess Zhaoyang. Back then, while still in swaddling clothes, I was switched with a farmer's daughter. Mother's pupils contracted sharply, and she murmured as if suddenly enlightened. No wonder. But seeing Qiu Yan's terrified expression, Mother said solemnly, Miss Xu, if you trust me, Dai Ning, then stay here and recover in peace. I will definitely help you with your matter. But before Mother could come up with a plan, she was captured. On the day it happened, a group of fierce-looking men barged into the tavern carrying clubs. The leader was a burly man with a stern face, shouting, This wine killed my wife. You must pay with your lives. After saying that, without another word, they started smashing things. The customers in the tavern scattered in fear to avoid them. Mother was trying to explain nicely, but a group of guards came up and directly grabbed Mother's arms, then controlled the shop workers one by one. I was originally practicing calligraphy on the second floor of the wine shop. Seeing this scene, I was so scared my whole body trembled, and I hurriedly scrambled into the wooden cabinet on all fours. Only when the entire wine shop became completely quiet did I dare to slowly come out. And the once lively wine shop was now left with nothing but a mess. I thought to myself, this must be Father Jan Ru Heng's revenge. He couldn't force Mother to close the wine shop, so he used this despicable method to frame her. I was completely at a loss, walking around the wine shop aimlessly like a headless fly. What about Mother? What should I do in my panic? I didn't see the path under my feet and crashed hard into someone's legs. Mingrong! Mingrong! I suddenly raised my head and saw through my blurred eyes who had come. It was young Master Zhang, as if grasping the last saving straw. I actually spoke clearly for the first time. Mother is in trouble. They took Mother away. Young Master Zhang looked at my eyes red from crying, then glanced at the mess all over the wine shop floor. A terrifying coldness instantly flashed through the depths of his eyes. A fierce, cold aura emanated from his whole body, yet he still softened his voice. Wrong. Don't worry. With me here, I'll definitely save your mother. I clutched the corner of his clothes tightly, refusing to let go, and choked out. Please, you must bring Mother back. I can't be without Mother. Young Master Zhang gently patted my back. He turned to give a few instructions to the attendants behind him. Soon, an elderly nanny with a gentle face stepped forward. Young Master Zhang carefully handed me over to the nanny, instructing, take good care of her, escort her back to the small courtyard, and don't let anything go wrong. The nanny respectfully agreed, gently took my hand, and accompanied by several attendants, led me toward the small courtyard. Just as we reached the entrance of the small courtyard, I saw Tu Yan anxiously pacing and waiting in the yard. Seeing me being led back by strangers, looking so lost and distraught, she immediately hurried out of the house and asked urgently, what happened? Wrong. Where is your mother? What is going on? I couldn't hold back anymore, threw myself beside Shu Yan, and sobbed out the whole story. After hearing everything, Tu Yan's face instantly turned deathly pale. It is all my fault. I must have dragged Lady Dai into this. If I hadn't been hiding here, Princess Zhou wouldn't have gone to such lengths to frame her. When the elderly nanny heard the words, Princess Zhou, her gaze inadvertently swept across Qiuyan's face. She was slightly startled at first, then calmly withdrew her gaze without showing any expression. Only her eyes held a bit more scrutiny when looking at Qiuyan. Less than an hour later, sounds came from outside the courtyard gate. I hurried out and saw young Master Zhang carrying Mother, walking quickly towards us. Mother was completely limp in his arms, her face pale. I was so frightened that I didn't dare go forward and could only stand in place. Young Master Zhang gently laid Mother on the bed, then turned and walked to my side. Your mother is fine. She just needs to rest well for a few days. Don't worry. Wrong from now on. No one will dare hurt you two again. Mother didn't slowly regain consciousness until the afternoon of the next day. I stayed by the bedside without leaving for a moment. When I saw her eyelids flutter, I immediately cried out in joy. My mother is awake. As soon as she saw young Master Zhang, Mother struggled to get up. Greetings, Your Majesty. Young Master Zhang, or rather His Majesty, hurriedly stepped forward to hold her down when he saw this. Lady Dai, why must there be such distance between us? Before me, there is no need for such formalities. But Mother stubbornly nodded slightly. Your Majesty has shown me the grace of saving my life. Proper etiquette must never be neglected. His Majesty looked at her, keeping him at arm's length like this, a flash of disappointment in his eyes, then said forcefully, Since you've long known my true identity, has anyone told you that imperial commands cannot be defied? He pointed at the medicine bowl that the nanny had just brought to the bedside. Now drink your medicine properly right away and rest well to heal. Otherwise, I'll give the order that you won't be allowed to see a wrong until you've recovered." I stood to the side, listening with a bewildered look on my face, not understanding why His Majesty would use not seeing me as a threat against Mother. But I caught His Majesty secretly winking at me. Mother's body trembled slightly, and in the end, she didn't resist anymore, slowly extending her hand to pick up the medicine bowl and drink it down sip by sip. Mother rested peacefully in the small courtyard for 3 days. During this time, Aunt Kuyen said she had matters to attend to and needed to leave first. What was surprising was that His Majesty actually came to visit in person for 3 consecutive days. He sat by the bedside, keeping watch over Mother with me, mostly sharing amusing stories about winemaking, as if he were still that young Master Zhang who often came to chat at the wine shop back then. Although Mother still observed proper etiquette, her words had unknowingly become somewhat less distant. Sometimes when I passed by the two of them, I felt the air itself was sweet, and the matter of the wine shop being smashed also quickly reached a conclusion. On the 4th day, the burly man who had led the trouble back then was kneeling at the entrance of the Dai family wine shop. The leading man confessed tearfully in public that he had taken money from someone else and had deliberately come to the wine shop to cause a scene and frame them. But when the common folk asked, "Then who was it that sent someone to instigate this?" the burly man just hemmed and hawed, unable to say. Hearing all this, Mother just laughed it off. On this sunny day, Mother finished freshening up and was full of energy as usual. "Let's go. Dai's wine shop is reopening." On opening day, a bunch of people came from the palace. Leading them was an unfamiliar eunuch, followed by dozens of palace maids and guards, each holding a tray, quite a grand display. The eunuch beamed with smiles. By decree of the Empress Dowager, in recognition of the hardships of Madame Dai, wife of the former top scholar, she specially bestows 1,000 taels of gold to support the household. My gut told me something wasn't right. Mother held my hand and walked out from the courtyard. Facing that pile of blindingly shiny gold, her face showed not a ripple of emotion. She knelt down properly to receive the decree. This commoner woman Dai thanks the Empress Dowager for her grace. The head eunuch smiled and gestured for the palace maids to pass over the trays. "Lady Dai, please accept it quickly. This is the Empress Dowager's kind intention. May I trouble you, eunuch, to report back to the Empress Dowager that this commoner woman is grateful for the imperial grace. However, this 1,000 taels of gold, this commoner woman feels unworthy to accept." She raised her head, her gaze sweeping over the crowd of onlookers, and declared loudly, "These years, this commoner woman has made a living brewing wine and deeply understands the hardships of poor families. The Empress Dowager's grace, this commoner woman accepts in her heart. These 1,000 taels of gold, this commoner woman is willing to donate entirely to the charity house." The moment these words came out, the entire alley fell silent. Even the head eunuch, who was used to grand occasions, was stunned. After a long while, he finally stammered, "Madame Dai, have you thought this through? This is 1,000 taels of gold. Most people couldn't earn this in their entire lifetime. This commoner has made up her mind. Though I, Dai, am unworthy, I still understand. One should not accept rewards without merit. This gold would be better spent buying cotton clothes and hot porridge for orphans and widows. Wonderful Madame Dai is such a good person. She is truly a great philanthropist." As expected of the former Zhuangyuan's wife, the onlooking commoners all showed admiration on their faces, each raising their thumbs in approval. Mother's expression shifted slightly, and she spoke again. "Not only that, I ask everyone here to be my witness. From now on, 10% of Dai's wine shop's profits will be regularly donated to the charity house as a small token of my goodwill." As soon as these words came out, the people around became even more excited. A regular customer shouted excitedly, Madam Dai, from now on I'll come here every day to buy wine. I stood to the side, looking up at Mother with eyes full of admiration. At this moment, she wore a simple dress, and under the morning sun's glow, it was as if her whole body was radiating light. Not far away, the Emperor in his casual attire was also gazing at Mother, his eyes filled with appreciation and tenderness. After this incident, Dai's wine shop's business that day was unimaginably booming. The workers were so busy their feet barely touched the ground, and even Aunt Shu came over to help greet customers. Watching everyone bustling about, I took the initiative to become a little helper, wiping tables and arranging wine pots one moment, handing freshly cut dried fruits to regular customers the next. Although my little face was flushed, red from exhaustion, my heart was full of joy. After finally making it to sunset, I followed Mother out of the shop, just wanting to hurry back to our little courtyard to rest. But as soon as I stepped over the threshold, I saw a carriage parked at the alley entrance, with several guards standing beside it. Right after, the elderly nanny who had accompanied me back to the courtyard that day stepped down from the carriage and said solemnly, "Madam Dai, the Empress Dowager summons you. Please come with me to the palace immediately." Hearing the words, "Enter the palace to see the Empress Dowager," my heart instantly skipped a beat, and I instinctively shrank behind Mother, filled with fear. Mother sensed my unease and reached out to hold my hand tightly. "Thank you for informing us, Nanny. It is just that my daughter is young and I can't help worrying. Please allow me to enter the palace together with my daughter, Arong." Upon hearing this, the elderly nanny nodded, her smile still gentle. "Very well, Madam Dai, rest assured. This old servant has prepared the carriage, and the young miss won't be treated poorly. Madam Dai, the Empress Dowager is waiting inside. Please follow this old servant in." The nanny reminded me softly, gesturing for me to stand obediently at the side of the hall entrance and wait. I peered through the crack of the palace door and saw a graceful and dignified woman sitting on the chair at the very front. It was the Empress Dowager. Her brows were tightly furrowed, her sharp gaze fixed on Mother, full of displeasure. "Lady Dai, your ideas always seem to surprise me. You really don't know your place." Mother knelt on the ground. "Please forgive this commoner's offense. Everything this commoner has done came from the heart, without the slightest intention of overstepping." The Empress Dowager's voice suddenly rose. "Why wouldn't you accept being a co-wife? And why wouldn't you close the wine shop? Don't you know, if you had agreed to these things, you wouldn't have caused all this trouble afterward? I truly despise you to the extreme." Mother was silent for a moment, and the atmosphere in the hall became very stiff. After a long while, she finally spoke slowly. "In reply to your Majesty, the Empress Dowager, this commoner refused to agree, only because this commoner is not just Lady Dai, but also a mother, with a daughter she treasures as her own life. This commoner knows well that a mother's principles of conduct will subtly influence her child for a lifetime." The Empress Dowager's expression froze for a moment. She paused, her gaze unconsciously sweeping toward the palace door, as if searching for my figure. "When this commoner woman married Yan Ruhang back then, he promised me that I would be his only one in this lifetime, that he would never betray me or leave me. If this commoner woman compromises herself for wealth and status today, and agrees to become his equal wife, then when my daughter encounters a lover who has a change of heart and falls for someone else someday, would she also think that such grievances are only natural?" At this point, her voice trembled slightly. "If this commoner woman agrees to close down the wine shop today and live off silver that others give as charity, would my daughter think that women are born to depend on others and don't need to have their own means of livelihood? This commoner woman dares not gamble, nor can I afford to." Hiding outside the palace hall doors, I listened to Mother's words, tears streaming down my face. The Empress Dowager inside the hall, after hearing these words, gradually softened her tense expression. She finally let out a long sigh, When parents love their children, they plan far ahead for them. When I was young, I had a very difficult life, and so when I later had Xiaoyang, I naturally doted on her in every way, only wanting her to live peacefully all her life, without suffering the slightest grievance. This commoner woman understands, Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager's loving feelings for the princess. Mother raised her head. But although these are words of wisdom, if children behave improperly and become arrogant from being spoiled, as parents, one should discipline them, rather than indulging them blindly. The Empress Dowager's expression turned displeased. What audacity you have! Just as her words fell, a burst of noisy sounds suddenly came from outside the palace hall doors. My heart tightened. I turned to look and saw Princess Xiaoyang covering her slightly bulging belly, storming over furiously. Father Yan Ruheng followed behind her, looking completely submissive. Get out of my way, lowly servants. Are you all blind? I want to see the Empress Mother. Princess Xiaoyang shoved aside the palace maids blocking her path. Mother, open the door. Why did brother strip Yan Ruheng of his position? What exactly did he do wrong? Between her cries, she instinctively shielded her belly again. Mother, I am carrying your own grandchild in here. How can you be so heartless? But the gates of Signing Palace that once granted her every wish were now tightly shut. Yan Ruheng stood nearby, sweating profusely from anxiety, yet didn't dare step forward to persuade her. He could only comfort her in a low voice, but Xiaoyang ignored him completely. Just then, he happened to catch sight of me standing by the palace door, and quickly walked over. Wrong, why are you here? Where's your mother? I didn't look at him and said coldly, Young Master Yan. Hello. Yan Ruheng's face changed drastically, his eyes full of shock. What did you call me? Wrong, I am your father. How can you call me Young Master Yan? Why waste words on this little brat? Princess Xiaoyang turned her head impatiently and scolded, her contemptuous gaze sweeping over me. Seeing me blocking the palace gate, she reached out to push me aside. Get lost. Don't block this princess's way. Just as her hand was about to touch me, I instinctively dodged to the side. Xiaoyang lost her balance and nearly fell to the ground. After steadying herself, her rage grew even fiercer. She pointed at me and cursed harshly. You little brat, how dare you dodge? Watch me tear your mouth apart. Enough, Xiaoyang. The gates of Signing Palace slowly opened. A commanding voice came from within the hall. The Empress Dowager's expression was cold as ice, her heavy gaze fixed on Xiaoyang at the doorway, without a trace of her usual affection. But Xiaoyang didn't notice the change in the Empress Dowager's expression at all. Mother, you are finally willing to see me. Please help me get justice. She had just taken a step forward when she was stopped by the guards at the palace entrance. Xiaoyang froze in place, staring at the guards in disbelief. Why are you stopping me? The Empress Dowager's voice rang out again. Who gave you the nerve to act so wildly in front of Signing Palace? Xiaoyang stood there dumbstruck. Xiaoyang, it is time you knew the truth. You are not my daughter at all. No, that is impossible. Xiaoyang was struck as if by lightning, instantly frozen in place. She shook her head frantically, her eyes fixed on the Empress Dowager. Mother, what nonsense are you saying? I am your daughter. How can you say that? Just then, a slender figure slowly emerged from behind the folding screen. It was Qiuyan, who had been recovering from her injuries in the small courtyard. She wore an elegant and plain palace dress, her expression calm, her gaze sweeping indifferently over the panicked Xiaoyang. When she clearly saw Qiuyan's appearance, Xiaoyang's pupils contracted sharply and her whole body trembled uncontrollably. She shouted incoherently, Who is she? Royal Mother, tell me quickly, what on earth is going on? She is my biological daughter, the true princess, Xiaoyang. The Empress Dowager's expression darkened. You must have known the truth long ago. Otherwise, you wouldn't have tried to kill my biological daughter. Zhao Yang hysterically denied, I didn't. And behind her, Yan Ruhang was also struck as if by a thunderbolt at this moment. Clever as he was, he instantly figured out all the connections, all his scheming and maneuvering, even abandoning his wife and daughter to climb the social ladder. It was all for a fake princess. After all, there were years of affection between them. The Empress Dowager still spared the fake Zhaoyang, only banishing her from the capital. As for Tuyan, now Princess Fuyu, if she wanted to do something to the fake Zhaoyang outside the capital, the Empress Dowager frankly admitted she could no longer intervene. After all, the fake Zhaoyang should pay the corresponding price for the wrongs she committed. As for the prince consort Yan Ruhang, his dismissal from office was already set in stone, with no possibility of ever making a comeback. And on the day the news was announced to the world, father and elder brother came to Dai's wine shop to see mother trying to salvage the relationship. Ningniang, I was foolish before. Abandoning my wife and daughter was my mistake. Now I have nothing left. I only ask that you give me another chance, so our family of 3 can live a good life together. But mother only said one thing. You abandoned your wife and daughter back then. Now you want to abandon another woman and child. Yan Ruhang, don't make me feel that knowing you in this life was a complete and utter mistake. These words left Yan Ruhang looking embarrassed, and he could only slink away dejectedly. Mother looked at elder brother, who seemed to want to speak but held back, took out 100 taels of silver and handed it to him. Take this money, find a stable livelihood, and live a good life. Other than that, there were no extra words. After dealing with these troublesome matters, mother closed the wine shop and returned to the small courtyard. As soon as she stepped through the courtyard gate, she saw His Majesty had already been waiting there. Seeing mother return, he quickly walked up. Dai Niang, now that everything has settled, when can I marry you? Mother's cheeks flushed slightly at his question, but she wasn't shy about it, and said with a smile, wait until my Dai's wine shop has spread throughout the land, and everyone can drink the wine I brew, then we'll talk. Hearing this, His Majesty laughed heartily. Then let me say this in advance. When that time comes, I want to marry into the Dai family and become your Dai's wine shop's son-in-law. The two looked at each other and smiled, their eyes curved with joy. Sunlight poured over them, a perfect picture of peaceful times. As for me, I was squatting off to the side, munching happily on a tangulu in one hand, while the other hand didn't forget to stuff bones to the big dog beside me.